Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have a number of members of our senior staff with us this morning. Our committee clerk, though, is Carly Dolsky. Carly.
Thank you. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the public hearing process brochure, which is available on the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item number 1 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject a variance for 580 Roseberry Street under file DAV 107897A/2022C. Members of committee, please note additional communications were received in support of the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you have been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. And we'll have a brief summary from the administration, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. So the subject property is on the west side of Roseberry Street, and this is between Ellis Avenue and St. Matthews Avenue, and this is in the St. James industrial neighborhood of the St. James ward. The subject property is classified as a general manufacturing policy area under the Communities Direction Strategy. And this property is zoned M1, which is a light manufacturing zoning district. The subject property is approximately 37,000 square feet in area and contains a one-story warehouse building that is approximately 15,000 square feet in area. This building was constructed at some point prior to 1988. The applicant is proposing to establish a retail sales use in the building, Artists Emporium. This retail sales use will sell art supplies and provide custom work for customers. No expansion of the building is proposed and no exterior changes are proposed for the building. It should be noted that the previous principal use in this building was a warehouse use. And because the proposal is to change the principal use of the building to a retail sales use, a zoning review was conducted by the public service to ensure that the proposed use meets the requirements of the Winnipeg zoning bylaw. In order to comply with the accessory parking requirements of the zoning bylaw, the rear portion of the subject site is proposed to contain 31 additional parking stalls. There are a small number of paved parking stalls on the front and side of this property. But in order to comply with the parking requirements, this back area was also required to be available as a parking space. This rear portion of the site is proposed to remain unpaved with gravel surfacing. The zoning bylaw requires that all accessory parking areas are to be surfaced with asphalt, concrete, or some other hard surface approved by the city. The Urban Planning Division does not typically support gravel parking areas that are required by a variance to either be maintained or established. And as such, we rejected this variance application after discussions with representatives of the applicant, informing them of their ability to appeal this decision to reject the variance. The applicant filed an appeal, and as such, this item is before this committee today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. I guess, I struggle with this a little bit. 201 Portage, directly to the north. Your department supported a massive gravel surface parking lot and extensions there how many times? I mean, in my mind, that was maybe not the right decision based on this policy, but here we are with, a rear lot of a light manufacturing, light retail property out on Roseberry in St. James. How do you, I know every hearing and every issue is separate, but how do you square that circle? Circle that, whatever, around the corners of that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I wouldn't be able to speak to the specifics of that property and that application. I do know that it has come before Standing Policy Committee a number of times. the vacant lot that is north of 201 Portage and just down the street from us today. But my understanding, and again, not having a ton of knowledge on the history of that, is that it was intended to be a temporary parking area. And yeah, beyond that, I really wouldn't be able to say what the specifics are. This was with any decision we make, particularly a decision to reject a variance application that does come into us. We discuss it internally. I discussed with my manager, and that was the position in order to be consistent with other applications of this nature. Again, I wouldn't be able to speak to the specifics of 201 Portage.
Any other questions from the committee? Sorry, I don't see all of you on the screen at this second. Councillor Shire? Sorry, I saw Councillor Shire first. Sorry. Jason?
Oh, sure. Thank you. All right, so, you know, we're a half a dozen long blocks from Wall and Erin, and I do believe in that area. I'm not mistaken, there are some gravel lots in that industrial area where there are consumers encouraged to park there at these venues, these commercial venues. Are there any other gravel lots in this vicinity? I understand Councillor Brawadi was referring to, did you say south of Portage, Councillor Brawadi?
I was using it as a sort of a more policy type issue. You know, we're talking about our central business district, right at our, most prime intersection, if you will, as a comparison where it's, I appreciate it. It's not permanent. It is temporary, but it has been extended multiple times. Okay. Your question, I guess, is more about the area on Roseberry, if there's other examples of gravel surface parking lots.
I know there is a half a dozen blocks away. I'm just wondering if there's, in terms of, since we referred to this as St. James Industrial, I do think of the Erin Watt as sort of industrial commercial, and sure. I'm pretty sure there's some gravel lots in there.
Roseberry is some distance from Erin Wall. Like, this is like on the opposite side of Polo Park. This is some distance away.
I did say a half a dozen long blocks. Yeah, it's on the other side of St. James or Century. That's true.
I think Roseberry is more aligned like one of the main runways at James.
Right by Ferry. Just two blocks.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, are there other gravel parking lots in the area?
Yeah, we in reviewing this application and preparing this report, we did look at the rest of the block, this block of Roseberry, just between St. Matthews and Ellis, and there are a few areas of properties elsewhere on the block that do have some gravel surfacing that appears to be used as their accessory parking area. These likely would have been, and my look at it is that these were established prior to the current zoning bylaw coming into effect, which does require properties to be surfaced. So these would be legally non-conforming gravel surface areas. If they were to change their use, the use of the building, or to rezone or need some other kind of variance, then they would also need a variance to maintain gravel surfacing.
Okay, and thank you. And is there also some hard surfacing at this venue or on this general parking lot or area of this lot?
Yes, there is. At the front, there are a few parking stalls, as well as on the side, and these are currently paved. I believe that there is, I should have it in front of me, but I don't. But the site plan shows that there's approximately nine parking stalls in the front and side yard, and these are paved with concrete or asphalt, as well as the driveway to those, the front approach to those parking.
And this at this point, non-hard surfaces gravel portion right now accounts for what percentage of the lot, of the parking area?
I don't know the exact percentage, but there's of the stalls that are provided on their site plan. They show 44 stalls in total, And of those, 33 are in this gravel area in the back. So there is a difference of 13. There's 13 stalls that are in the front and along the side of the building that are paved it with concrete.
Thank you very much. Thank
Councillor
you.
Rollins.
I'm good. I'd like to get going.
Councillor Oko, you're good?
Let's get going, please.
Madam Clerk, just again, I don't have slips with us anymore. How many people do we have registered in support of the appeal, for information, and in opposition?
So we have everyone registered just in support of the appeal. We have the applicant plus 9 others that have registered. There is a chance might be someone in the gallery who hasn't pre-registered, but we have 9 that have pre-registered in addition to the appellant.
And nobody in opposition to the appeal?
Correct. We had no one pre-register for in opposition or for information.
Okay, well, let's call the applicant appellant forward.
Sure. Okay, so we have Janine Johnson, who's joining us in person today in the gallery. And Janine, you can make your way down to the podium.
Right down there.
Morning, Janine. You'll have up to 10 minutes with the committee after you state your name.
Janine Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Carly because all these letters of support here and all the people here, thank you for administrating all that. So my name's Janine Johnson. I grew up in St. James and I own Artists Emporium. Artists Emporium was established in 1977. So this is our 45th anniversary. I bought it in 1999. We've developed it into the largest store art supply store between Vancouver and Toronto. And proud to say we're one of the top independently owned art supply stores in Canada. I've always spoken very highly to business groups and that about how great it is to own a business in Winnipeg. It's like being in a small community within a big city. Everyone's so supportive, and that's, testament to the people that are out here to support me today. I just wanted to make a little bit of a correction on, we aren't just retail. So we have a very diverse business. We are about half in dollar-wise retail, but only a third in the square footage of the building. So the rest is, we have the tender business for the school divisions for art supplies. We have wholesale supplies to schools, smaller galleries, small art supply stores. We manufacture picture frames. We have a large contract for LifeTouch Canada. Across Canada, we do the foam core backing for their grad photos and some frames. And most recently, I just purchased float mount from Main Street over here. So once we can get open, we will be bringing that over, and we have a designated dust-free room for that. So our mandate, when we make donations in that, we don't donate to golf tournaments and socials and that. Our mandate has always been to support the organizations most in need. And those are mainly, we want to make sure that everyone has the right to art and create. So we donate to Art Beat, Art City, Graffiti Gallery, Oak Table, Silo Mission, Spence Street Project, Inspire, One Just City, and many more just in the city of Winnipeg. So we want to enable everyone to have the opportunity to participate in art, including shelters, after-school art programs, as well as the essential healing through art for mental illness and hospitals, et cetera. So the last couple of years have been very difficult for many people, but the COVID shutdowns, losing key employees, concerns about losing market share to Amazon coming into Winnipeg, large online US warehouses, the larger stores in Toronto, and now the difficulties in the last 7.5 months with trying to get an occupancy permit. So the reason we moved is that our lease was coming up and our rent had been going up and up and up every year, and it was going up every year in the future, or every second year. So it prompted us to buy a building, and we were looking for something close by and sort of a warehouse look like we had. So we were very excited to purchase 580 Roseberry Street. And it's a very close, incredible art community. We were able to get 40 volunteers out to help paint and assemble shelves and clean, and it was, absolutely amazing to have that support. So I had presented to Carly a timeline of what transpired in order for us to get to where we are today. So I'll just sort of briefly go through that. On October 28th, we submitted architectural, structural, mechanical, and electrical blueprints. All questions and requests were dealt with promptly, including putting a new opening in the exterior wall and installing new venting. 6 weeks later, they requested new structural drawings for 9 piles under a proposed wheelchair ramp. And again, we promptly responded, paying for new stamped engineer plans. It wasn't until January 4th, the zoning officer came back with a new request to put in 42 parking stalls and pave the back lot. She implied this would be the last request, and if once again, we changed the plans and paid the city a variance fee of $2,300. Unless someone opposed it, it should be good to go after that. On January 21st, the zoning officer emailed, and I quote, "Once the payment is confirmed, I will update the file and forward it to the planner for review and report. Once the report is complete, the file will move to a variance clerk who will prepare posters and contact you for poster pickup." We complied with the 42 stalls because we believed this would speed up the process, as we knew none of the neighboring businesses would oppose the variance. 7 weeks later, we inquired what was happening with this. And on March 10th, we followed up on the permit and we were told in an email, the planner completed his report on or around February 24th, and the file was then forwarded to the variance clerk to prepare the posters that you will need for your site. We were very encouraged by this. March 11th, the next day, the zoning officer emailed. It was brought to my attention, I misread the status of the variance and the file is still with the planner. March 15th, the planner emailed. Planning has reviewed the application. I have begun to prepare a report today. I expect this will be completed within the next day or two, at which time the public notice posters can be preparing. These public notice posters are placed on the property, notifying the public of the city's decision to approve the variance. They must be left on the property for 14 days. We were, again, thinking this was going in the right direction. The next day, March 16th, the planner emails. As we reviewed the application internally, it is determined that urban planning could not support the variance to permit a gravel parking area at the back of the property. We will be making a decision to reject the variance to permit a gravel parking area. I appreciate your patience with this application. You can only imagine how upsetting this news was. So I'm just going to go into the reasons why the planner rejected. The planner states in the context of section 247/3, the Urban Planning Division rejects for the following reasons. A, is not consistent with Plan Winnipeg in that it supports compatible development in the general manufacturing area. In Plan Winnipeg, it says retain and strengthen manufacturing areas by ensuring they do not transition from non-manufacturing and non-warehouse uses. Well, we just purchased another light manufacturing business. So we are moving our whole framing division into there and float mount into a big dust-free room. So in fact, our retail has gone from 10,000 square feet down to 6,030. The rest is light manufacturing. So we are increasing our light manufacturing, not decreasing. B, the planner's reason for the decision does create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience in the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, in that the gravel surfacing has an adverse effect on functionality of the subject property's accessory parking area and on surrounding streets and properties. It is evident by the photos I submitted on the file that surrounding properties are in fact gravel on every side of us, behind our lot, and not paved as indicated. We will not be using it, so it has no adverse effect on us. C, is not the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw of the applicant's property and the 11,400 square feet is able to be paved. Not sure what that is, but yes, it is able to be paved, but we cannot afford it at this time, and it's not going to be used for parking. So D, is not compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated, in that the surrounding area is characterized by warehouse and manufacturing uses that have paved accessory parking areas. And as I submitted the photos again, that's incorrect, as the submitted photos clearly show the surrounding, areas, shouldn't talk with my hands. All the buildings on each side of us, their accessory parking is gravel. So our reasons for appealing the variance: I conducted an analysis on the parking spaces we need. In 2021, we had 24,895 customers, divided by 365 days, 7 hours a day, 15 minutes on average they spend in the store, is 2.64 plus 3 to 4 of our staff members park. So that's 6.43 on average at any given time, which is consistent with the, I'm just finishing.
Yeah, we'll move extension. And
Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
I'm almost finished. So that's in consistent with what we used to have, was 7 parking stalls plus a handicap stall for almost 40 years at our old location with no street parking. So right now we have 13, plus there's an extra grassed area. You could park 3 more cars, plus 5 right in front of our building on the street, is 21, which is 3 times the, amount of parking that my analysis says we need. 42 spots is a 525% increase over what we had, and it's 600 and something % over what we require. The lot is not visible from the street. It does not cause any adverse effect on the neighboring businesses or the neighborhood. Both the previous building businesses had some retail component. They weren't just warehouses. Bel-Air Rentals had people coming and going, renting tablecloths and dishes and everything, and Blinds Are Beautiful had a showroom for people to come and buy blinds. Just on that street, 575 Roseberry has gravel in the front and the back. There's numerous. The vacant lot next door to us is a bit of an eyesore with graffiti with guns and, just gravel and stuff everywhere. So there's lots of others in the area that have retail, Avro Boats and the casket place on the corner of Ferry and so forth. There would be no dust caused by the gravel, as it would not be in use. We originally planned on making the pie shaped lot, cutting it off and making it a green space for artists so that they could go there and paint in the summer. And we'd block out the neighbors' lots or the staff to go out for their lunches and breaks. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for listening to my reasons, and I ask the appeal committee to please reconsider the decision to deny the variance to pave the back lot for Artists Emporium, as we may be forced to close our doors after 45 years as a locally owned and operated business. We are well respected in the art community, the business community, and the education system, and I hope you'll see the value in the wonderful and essential programs we support and ensure everyone has the chance to express themselves through art.
Perfect. Thanks, Janine. Questions? Councillor Rollins.
Thank you. Just to clarify a few points that you made. And public service, I will head to you after. So just a heads up, not after this, but when the time comes. So you are in fact expanding your business to the extent that you've you've stopped renting and you've purchased a building.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
You've purchased a building, you're going to be paying taxes on that building.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're about 35,000.
Okay. And so prior to that, you were renting, now you're expanding your business in the city of Winnipeg. The business, so you bought the building. You submitted blueprints and you provide a timeline. So 5 months, essentially, 4 months after submitting your blueprints, you're provided notice that it's going up. Did you have the conversation with the planning folks that you didn't think you needed a 525% increase to your parking, that it is more than what you require? You said, you know, for expediency's sake in the permitting process, because you presumably want to get into the business as opposed to the planning for the business. Right. You know, at any point, did you challenge, you know, to the department, we don't need 525% more parking actually. So we're going to go along with this because it's taking time. Was that the conversations you were having with the department?
I did express to Rob that we didn't need that much of parking. I actually never did find out what the math was behind coming up with 42 spots, so I'm not exactly sure how they came up with that. I think in talking with the zoning officer, it just made sense for us to just comply with it and move forward. Then in hindsight, had we known they weren't going to approve variance, then I don't think we would have signed off on the 42 spots because we clearly don't need them.
Okay. And then in terms of the intervals, was there an explanation of what was happening the weeks that include between February 24th and March 16th? The communications?
No.
Was there an explanation of?
We went 7 weeks and we didn't hear anything. And then we contacted them and it was just, the answer was just, it's still under review. There's no timeline.
But yet there had been direction provided to you and then a reverse of the direction eventually. And in those 7 weeks, there was no communication of.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I have one more question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
How much to date have you spent in terms of variances just on, this is same for the public service?
Well, let's see, we had to change the plans at least 3 or 4 times, and every time that happened, it was about at least $2,000. So that's like $8,000, and then $2,300 for the variance. So we're about at 10,000, but the loss of revenue is much, much higher over that 7-month period. November alone was substantial because we missed Black Friday and our busiest day of the year.
Can you ballpark that for me at all?
Well, in November alone, we lost $150,000.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Janine. Councilor Orlico.
I am going to ask the committee to do something I've never done in my 13 years. And this is under, and I believe the committee's ready to make it quicker. I think people are here today. They know what the ruling hopefully will be. So under that, you know, again, I've never done this before, but I do think we're ready to go. And I think that I get the feeling from the questions before, we're all on the same page. So with the committee's approval, and again, I'm just throwing this out here, that under section 55110, that the committee can decline to hear further presentations, questions, and objections where the hearing body is satisfied the matter has been adequately addressed at the hearing. Now, this would mean that we can move forward now and have the vote and let these good people go home.
5110.
5110, yeah.
Procedure bylaw.
Councilor Nawadi?
Yes, Councilor Shire.
I'm essentially in favor, I believe, of what Councilor Orlico is getting at. I ask that before Councilor Orlico makes his motion, that he consider a conditional use with a time limit of 5 years, that he consider that before he makes his motion.
I have considered that. I'm okay again. That I'm okay without the conditional use at this point, because it's just in the backyard and there's so many around that they're never going to change. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm inclined just to go forward with the today.
Again, if it makes you feel any better, Councillor Shire, it is an M1 industrial use. That is not changing. So, I mean, there are still limitations as to what can be done in M1 in terms of larger scale retail, I believe. So I'm supportive of Councillor Orlico's suggestion.
Given that it's industrial use, I just don't want this to be grandfathered in for a later time when I believe the administration has done their due diligence on this, although I do agree with where we're coming from here.
Okay.
That's a longer term impact. Okay.
So then, based on that, Councillor Orlico, are you ready to move some motions?
Well, I'm going to move the first motion. I guess what you have to move is the motion is to what I said, 5110. I apologize to Councillor Gillingham. I'm sure you had a wonderful speech ready to go. But number B is that under 5110, the hearing body, including committee of the council, that are required under the charter and bylaw to hold and conduct public hearing. We're going to invoke number B, which is to decline to hear for presentations, questions, and objections where the hearing body is satisfied the matter has been adequately addressed at the hearing. So that's my motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And then I'd be more than happy to do, I wasn't prepared for this part, but you have it handy? Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'm ready to move.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what Rollins will fit. I'm sorry I didn't have it up. So.
Okay. I'm going to be moving in support of the appeal.
You'll move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read, please.
I move that the report of Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Aye.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. In terms of supporting comments, first and foremost, I do believe in parking minimums, regardless of the adjacent uses. And City Center has been particularly good at continuing with respect to this. There is a long history and there was evidence put into the record that this would not only be more than that they would require, but that there is plenty of parking given their intervals. Finally, it costs business in this city to do business with the city of Winnipeg, and I'm uncomfortable with what happened here in terms of the iterations and how long it took. It really is. Time is of the essence sometimes, and here it is a bit confusing as to what happened. But I do want to say this on behalf of the public service: these are council-directed policies. So I do want to make sure everyone understands that these are council-directed policies, and while public service has some room to interpret. There are two that is written up in the report, and that's what guided them. And sometimes that's why variances, are required, even if the public service personally may have felt different. They are directed by council policy. That the business also bought a building, while isn't really relevant, is relevant to the economics, the basic economics of the city. So primarily because of the evidence put in the record of the intervals of parking that this business requires, and seeing the 525% or a large percent increase as excessive, So moved.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor?
Comments?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Schreier.
Just basically, if you'll notice, our question and answer were pertinent to the specifics of this business. This business I love, by the way, when it was on St. James. And having said that, that's why I was looking to make sure we are not making decisions, trying to minimize the decisions we make that are long term, that are pertinent to the question and answers we had during this brief appeal. But nonetheless, I am in favor of the appeal.
Thanks. Councillor Schreier, Councillor Orlico?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just, I'll add my support as well. Again, this is why we have the opportunity to do a variance. This is a unique circumstance. I generally do support the notion that, we're a major municipality and at a retail location that, parking does require a hard surface. But again, this is sort of a hybrid. This is a unique business and an area where this, is appropriate, I believe. Just north of 201 Portage, I have some issues, but that's for another day. Okay, the motion has been made. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move that the appeal be allowed and order DAV 107897-2020C be canceled.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move that the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development not be concurred in.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And finally, I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded with thanks to the arts community.
Absolutely. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Moving on. 391
We
Whittier.
got a little time now. Need time?
As a reminder to people in the gallery, displays are not permitted, but understood. Thank you.
Now you can go home.
Sorry for the lengthy process that it took to get to this point. And, yeah, thank you.
Confused.
Some
Could be open cranky.
of my friends. Yeah. Say hi.
Hey, take care. See you again.
See you.
Just let
Head
the
to
gallery
the
clear out for a second here. Sounds good.
Yeah, just giving a second to
Yep, all good.
Valerie. Thanks, Councillor.
Do you want a break or shake hands?
We got time now.
No.
I thought Carly, she's ready. Supposedly ready to go for the next one, right? Yeah, so we can get the next one done. Yeah, but
Okay. Item number 2 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 391 Whittier Avenue East under file DAV 106625A/2022C. Members of committee, please note additional communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal,